Hello, Hayley, and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Maddie.
Aren't we?
2024.
Yeah, boy, aren't we up early for our episode on the 1st of
I
January?
know. Look at
We
us,
are
6 a.m. on the 1st of Jan.
so prepared. Hench life. How you feeling, 2024?
I'm excited. I don't like New Year's Eve, but I really
Mm.
like fresh starts. I like New Year's
Yeah,
Day, and, this is a great day, I always think. And I like the beginning of the year and like the hope and all of that stuff. But I'm not a New
yeah,
Year's Eve fan,
same.
particularly.
Yeah,
But I like fresh starts, Maddie.
yeah, same. I
It's
think
full of
you
hope.
you get the week of eating all the delicious Christmas food, which everyone knows I'm a big fan of. All of that's out the way. You've watched every single Christmas show. You've done Love Actually about 8 times, and you think I'm ready for a new start. So
Yeah,
yes, feeling excited,
we're
feeling
ready. I'm ready
hopeful.
for the sales.
Whew.
I'm ready for the discounts in the restaurants.
Yes.
That's
Oh
what I
my
like
God,
about
yeah.
January, all that stuff. Yeah,
It's a
so
great
it's
time.
great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
love it.
So
So
tell us the plan for today.
the plan for today, Hilly Jepson, I thought we could talk about another topic that we love to talk about privately, as there's most of the topics here. The idea of doing your future self a solid.
Yes. I love doing
Yeah,
future me a solid. Well, I'm so
good.
pleased with myself when I've done it. Like we have
So grateful.
conversations sometimes, don't we? We're like, oh, I love past me. Because I did this. Like you're so
Yeah,
thrilled when it pays off, and you're like, old me is brilliant for doing this.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a good time of
When,
year to think about doing your future self a solid.
yeah,
In a big
again,
way.
reflective. Yeah,
I like it.
definitely. So
Hmm.
I see this with ourselves, as you say. We talk about this privately when we're bigging up us of a week ago or a month ago, and I see it in my group where a pattern, especially this sort of time of year, is when people are kind of again in this really reflective mode, and they look maybe back on December, and either they were so busy and absolutely knackered, and sadly they hadn't made it to you to help them, or they had a bunch of cancellations and no shows, or whatever it was. There's this like reflection of like, oh, I'm going to learn my lesson. Like never again is this going to happen, and
Yeah,
we make those
yeah,
promises to future self, and sadly, by the time a year comes round, all of these things are forgotten,
yes,
and
yes,
it's a pattern, isn't it? And then you beat yourself up, and you're like, why do I keep doing this? So that's how I sort of see it
yeah,
showing up in the industry. What about
yeah.
you?
I think I like to phrase it a bit like setting yourself up to win. I
Oh
really like to
yeah.
set myself up to win. I think about that a lot. I think I don't like letting myself down. Like when I let myself, future self down, oh, it's just so disappointing.
Yeah,
And I just feel mad with myself. And I really like to try and set future me up to not be stressed as much as possible. I think because of ADHD, the little things you can do for future self really pay off. And just all of that, yeah, it makes me feel proud of myself when I do that stuff. And I say this to people a lot that I work with, feeling proud of yourself is one of the best things you can do for your mood. And I think that
yeah,
thing you're talking about where people feel disappointed with themselves, it is horrible and it really is an effector on your mood. And so I do think
yeah,
setting yourself up to win is really important. But I think one of the ways we need to think about this is if we're going to think about setting ourselves up to win, we've got to think about what didn't work. I think
yeah,
it's a good time of year to reflect on what didn't, yeah, and let's take Christmas as an example. What didn't work, like you were saying, what do we not want to be doing again next year? And one of the things I just thought about this, people do in my group is write themselves a letter that's don't do
yeah.
this next
Amazing.
year, don't do this, remember how you felt like this, like do it while you've still got the
Yeah.
feelings, and be like, don't do more than 2 late nights, you hate it, remember how you cried, don't do this, remember to finish early because you've got all that to do with the kids, remember that. And then I say date it for, say, about September, and then
So
read it
smart.
in September before you're doing all the booking and before and think, right, I'm going to set myself up to win this year. And so it's a very therapy thing to do, to write yourself a letter. But I just think you don't remember the feelings next year. You don't remember how stressful it is. And so I
No,
think it's
once you've
important
got
to do
some,
that when you.
yeah, I was just laughing thinking, I feel like people have this, such a weird example. I'll give you two examples. One, when people have kids and they go, you know, say if they've had this labour and like everything was really challenging, and then they go,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to have another kid. And you're like, that was really hard, do you remember? And they're like, no, it
Do
wasn't
you
that
remember
bad.
these conversations? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, human nature is that I guess it makes you forget because it wants you to have lots of lovely
I
babies.
think so. Yeah. Yeah. I think in lots of ways, we go back to our normal patterns quite quickly after big
Yeah.
events.
Yeah.
You
Well,
know.
my likeness as a child-free person is when I get tattooed, and then as time goes by and it all heals up and everything's fine, and I go, oh, that wasn't that bad. You know, that was, I don't remember it being that painful. And then I go back and I'm like, oh shit, like I should have written down
Yeah,
how
covered in cling
horrible this
film and
was.
go thinking,
Yeah.
oh.
Getting trains from Essex and tubes
Yeah.
with like covered
I'm
in
actually
cling
on a
film and everything else.
yeah. I'm on a decade break from tattoos, Maddie. I don't know if I've ever
Oh
told you
yeah.
this, because I
Yeah.
just thought, oh, I can't do it anymore. It is all that stuff. It didn't leave my brain, and I thought I need
Yeah.
10 years off this. So
Yeah.
2 more
I think I
years,
agree.
I can get some
You're back.
tattoos. 2 more
Yay,
years,
I'll
I've
come
my
with you.
my 40s are off.
I love it. I think humans, and I'm going to include myself in humans, we are absolutely terrible with delayed gratification. In particular, people with ADHD, we suck at
Yeah,
it. There are
yeah.
numerous studies. There's that one about it's cookies or it's marshmallows, and they put them in front of everyone and go, you can have these stale cookies now, or if you just give us 20 minutes, we'll bring you these like beautiful, warm, gooey, fresh out the oven. Everyone eats the bloody cookies, don't they? And that's what we're doing. We're
It,
eating the cookies, yeah,
it is.
when
It's so
there's a better
interesting.
option. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, delayed gratification is so interesting. And it's really something you talk about a lot in a therapy room, I think, as well.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
often when people's lives are going a bit awry, one way or
Mm-hmm.
another, they're often they're not very good at delayed gratification, which
Mm-hmm.
is doing your future self a solid, basically.
Yeah,
You know, I'm
yeah.
going to forego this now for this later. And you know,
Mm-hmm.
when your mood's low, that's really hard,
Yeah.
because you just need to feel better now. And, you know, I have that phrase where I go, I'm just going to kick this down the road, which
Yeah.
sometimes is brilliant. Like when I talk about stress, I sometimes say, take this off your plate and kick it down the road. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes you can kick stuff down the road that you shouldn't, you know.
Yeah,
It
it's
would be
been
you would serve
strategic.
yourself better if you were to do it
Mm-hmm.
now. But I think this is really about being a grown up, Maddie, in it sometimes, and it's so
Yeah.
boring. Like adulting
Adulting,
is
we hate
hard.
it.
I don't love it. I don't love it at all. I struggle with it on the daily, and we talk about that a
Mm-hmm.
lot privately. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes, like even when I teach things like burnout and boundaries and all the stuff that I teach,
Mm-hmm.
I just sort of say sometimes you have to treat yourself like a toddler. And you have to
Yeah.
do, like you're parenting a toddler, parenting yourself, and you have to do what's good for them, not what they want. Toddlers would sit in
Mm-hmm.
front of the TV eating Percy Pigs all day. That's what they would like.
So would I.
But they won't feel great if they do. Yeah, my version
Yeah,
of that
yeah,
is eating toast in front of the housewives. But
yeah,
it doesn't pan out well when I do for a long
yeah.
period of time. It works well for a couple of hours. It doesn't work well for
Uh-huh.
2 days. And it is getting into that thing of, I know this is what I want, but future me is going to be gutted if I carry on.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Yeah.
it's really, I think I have trained myself to have that at the forefront of my mind quite a lot these
Mm-hmm.
days. It's one of my coping strategies, to be honest,
Yeah.
that I just developed because I don't like feeling in chaos and disappointed with myself.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
playing the tape forward, isn't it? I think that's really a really good
Yeah.
analogy is like the toddler. Like, are you gonna have a toddler style meltdown later because of the Percy Pigs that nothing
Yeah. Well,
got
that's
done?
exactly what happens.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And
That
you
is what
just
happens.
and it's at yourself. So it's not like the toddler at the parent, it's you're
Yeah.
mad at you and that feels really hard. Um I
It
saw a
is.
phrase the other
It affects
day.
your mood, I think.
Oh, like 100%, yeah. And I always feel
Hmm.
bad because I always never credit these because I forget where I see them, but I just read so much stuff and absorb it. But it said something like people will prefer a familiar hell over an unfamiliar heaven, and I was like, oh man, like,
Mm,
I see this loads. I see this in myself, where with cycles where you're like, why do I keep doing it? And then you know what the
yeah.
outcome's going to be. Sometimes you even know, like in the moment. For me, this shows up as like a procrastination thing. I
I
know that
just was
I'm going to
thinking
make,
about that.
yeah, make work for myself later. Energy mismanagement, like overbooking myself because the calendar, when you look at
Hmm.
it, goes, oh, that looks okay. There's a lot of stuff going on, but in reality, and you know this really in your heart of hearts, like that's going to be a really, really hard week. Like energetically, I'm going to really
Yeah.
like burn myself
Yeah.
out. Um, and yeah,
I see
it's
this.
yeah.
Go on. No, you
No, no,
go.
you go on. I was just going to say,
I see
like,
this as
sorry. this is a this
you
is a lily
definitely
job.
go.
Okay. Um, in where I'm learning this, like in practice now, is obviously I'm a very hench person who goes to the gym and I love it, and that is like the epitome of delayed gratification because you are so bad when you start, and it sucks because everyone else is better than you, and everything hurts, and you're getting up early, and yeah, there's like endorphins and stuff, but it takes a long time to see any results, and it's so much easier
Yeah.
to go, I'm going to stay in bed, I'm going to eat this delicious cake. um
Maddie, this
and
is
that
exactly what I was going to say.
oh, okay. um
That's what we
and
were
it's
both
not
fighting to say.
yeah, how funny. Same brain. But it's once you get the results, the first results, that you go, okay, this works, and I see that this is compounding. So the stuff that I did 7 months ago, or even a month ago, has led me to this, which then, and you get momentum there. But it's like being able to withstand that really sucky period at the beginning where you're
Yeah.
like, this is hard, yeah, and it's such a
It's
change in
yeah.
habits.
This is that how that shows up for me with exercise, exactly the same thing, well documented. I've got a bad back, and
Mm.
I fall in and out of this constantly, but the familiar hell is my back stiff. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, stiff is a joy these days compared to what it once
Mm-hmm.
was, but it's stiff and it feels on the edge of it's going to go.
Yeah.
And but I know that there is an unfamiliar heaven. I've experienced it where my back feels loads better when I'm in a period of doing my back exercises
Mm-hmm.
religiously and doing all the stuff. But I fall in and out of that so often. And I
Mm-hmm.
sometimes feel myself sat in bed, lying in the familiar hell of my back's hurting. And I just think,
Yeah.
what is wrong with me? Get up and do some
It's
exercises. But it's
yeah.
hard. It's just, we all have our things that we're not that great at. And for me, it's
Yeah.
that. And I really bounce between doing it and not doing it.
And I think
But yeah.
sometimes as a fellow bad back person, touch wood now, everything's good. But yeah, I was reading a book about this, and it was saying that like so many people will have, so I had surgery, and then you're obviously given like your post surgery physio, and they're like, this is super important. And how I didn't, I was like, yeah, I mean, I've had surgery, I'm good. But then I had like a really bad pain like relapse a couple of months later, and
Hmm.
it said, people can have quite major surgery and know how horrible the pain was before that, know that that's potentially where they can go back to, and they still don't do the exercises which take 30 seconds. And I was
Yeah.
totally that person, and it's wild.
Yeah.
Humans are crazy.
I am that person. And again,
Yeah.
I'm in and out of it. I drag when the pain gets a bit where it makes me nervous, that I'm
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm not going to be able to travel to London for work if I can. I then scare myself into sorting myself out again. But
Yeah.
it's that thing, isn't it? It's why people stop taking antidepressants when they feel better. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, but maybe the antidepressants are working. It's not that you don't need them
Yeah.
anymore. But
Chicken and egg,
the
isn't it?
minute we're
Yeah.
comfortable,
We
it's
stop.
a real human trait to stop
Yeah.
what's
Yeah.
working. It's hard, isn't it?
People be peopling.
People be people, and we are
Yeah.
absolutely guilty of it. And so,
Yeah.
should we
Totally.
talk about some examples of doing yourself a solid? Like, let's maybe chat,
Yeah.
Maddie, about what we do or what we recommend. What have you
Yes.
got?
So My first thought is travel related, of course, is the Judith Chalmers of the group. Um, Very, very good life hacks, and I actually think these were Aidan's, so I'm going to credit him. One is putting clean bedding on the day that you leave. Oh my God. And not leaving your house an absolute tip to
Heaven.
come back to.
Yes.
Um, and depending on the situation, if you're like, we stay in Airbnbs a lot. When we were away for 5 weeks, and it had a washer dryer, and we washed all of our holiday clothes on the last day and dried them. So when we came back, because that's the hell, isn't it? Having a pile of
Honestly,
holiday
it's
washing that
just
you're
the
not even going to wear.
worst.
Worst ever.
Yeah.
So that was like two, because we knew we get horrible jet lag. We go away for long periods, so like our jet lag even seems longer to fix itself. So
Yeah. Coming back from
anything
America's
we
a
can
killer.
do to make the post holiday time better, we'll do it.
Yeah.
What about you?
Well, I do some, I've got my links together really here. But what I will do is make sure there's something in the freezer that I can literally just shove in the oven or the air fryer when I get back to eat. I kind of make, because I'm not very good with food shopping and all of that. And I make sure that there will be things I can eat for at least a day or two, that because you can't have fresh things in your fridge when you're going away for a long time.
No.
So I will make sure that there are things I can literally put in my mouth with not a lot of energy for a couple of days when I get back. And it's that same thing of just making sure I'm going to be fed and I've not got to drag myself to the shops when I've not really got the energy.
Yeah.
Because I like to
Yeah.
sort of maybe hibernate a little bit for a day or two when I've been traveling
Oh
afterwards and
God.
regain my
Yeah.
energy. And so for me, it's food around that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I recommend, and it's timely talking about this now in January, but like in my memberships and in the webinar that I do in December, Snowed Under to Slaying It, one of the things I talk about is setting yourself up to win where food's concerned through December,
Oh
and so
yeah.
it's all about how can you set yourself up to win and make sure you're going to eat when you're busy, and we're busy all the time, but I have little things like I recommend people have an emergency shopping list saved in there, like let's call it Tesco online shopping. And then
Yeah.
when it gets hard, you can just be like, oh, just press go. And within 24 hours, you can have a load of food
Yeah.
shopping arrive. You wrote
Amazing.
that list when you had some energy, you thought about the basics that would get you through a week, and you can just hit it. And I love stuff like that. And I'm a freezer
Yeah.
food fan, Maddie. I do like beige food, actually. I'm quite teenager in my food, but I think it's great to just have food in your freezer sometimes for those days where you just haven't got the energy. And future you is thrilled with that chicken Kiev.
Yeah. Like when we
Just
don't do
thrilled with it.
that, I know, and it's nice to have like homely beige buffet food. Um, I
I love
find that
the
when we
chicken
don't
Kiev
do
and
that,
chips.
we'll end up getting a Deliveroo and an Uber Eats, and we will do that for like days, and it costs a
Yeah.
fortune. You feel like rubbish because you're just eating a lot of shite.
It's so
Um,
much more expensive, isn't it? I
yeah,
think
and
it's
it's a
like the
cycle, and then you don't do your food
contingents.
shop. Yeah,
Yeah, and I like the things like free food in the freezer. I see it like an insurance policy for when I can't be bothered. And
yeah,
also it ensures I don't spend. And so future me is really pleased about that
yeah,
dodgy Kiev and frozen pizza every now and again. It saves me when I just suddenly
yeah,
haven't got the energy. And so I love that. What else? What have you
yeah.
got?
I think work wise, and it's interesting because the thread here that I'm like pulling out is it's a there'll be times when your energy is at an all time low. So when it's a little bit high, you put that energy in to
Yes.
mitigate that. So I think
Yes.
and this is something that I know you talk so much about in your coaching and memberships and stuff, is making yourself less easy to contact, or where you're getting less notifications or less distractions. And I found that hard when I was behind the chair. Obviously now my audience is like much bigger, and I am contactable in lots of ways. So having and the same for those listening who are behind the chair, is like just setting up like a welcome message, just having some sort of barrier that wins you a little bit of energy and time, that where you don't lose the client, they're not sat in limbo or disappearing, but just being like setting a little expectation, like I reply to messages once a day. I've got your message. Here's a frequently asked questions. Here's a booking link. Something that
Yes.
will just make you not go, oh my God, I need to pick my phone up because I'm going to lose this client. And
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a nice
I think
business one.
energetically, hairdressers and beauty folk are wasting a lot of energy on their phones in the evening replying to messages. And I think
Totally, yeah.
do yourself a future solid and figure out a way for that not to happen, that
Yeah,
sort of stuff, isn't it? For
yeah.
sure. For sure. One I really like as well is having a pot attached to your bank account to save your tax in. Oh, I mean, I
God.
preach this over and over in my memberships to everyone. You're like, organize yourself because tax season, and we're kind of coming into it a little bit, aren't we now?
Yeah.
Where people start going, oh God, I haven't got my tax bill.
Mm-hmm.
I have one attached to my business bank account. I set a percentage, and every time money goes into my account, a percentage goes into the tax. I don't even see it.
That's
Future
amazing.
me is so buzzing. And then I started actually setting the percentage higher after a few years. So it also
Amazing.
acts as a bit of a save. So when I pay my tax bill, there's always a bit left. And I'm like,
A
yes,
Christmas
future me is
bonus.
thrilled. And she's hitting Selfridges.
I was going to say, well, the
But I sort
January
of do it.
sales.
Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Future me is like, what a little treat. And I do it on purpose because it makes me smile. I pay my bill, but I also get to buy myself something nice. So it's
I,
nice. These are
yeah,
very
like
grown up things.
tax bit, and it is, and I think this is really proportional to how adult these things are, because like you've got you as a sole trader in the UK. As a sole trader, you've got tax season end of January, and then when everyone hits their first year where they do payment on account and they didn't realise, and then they've got 1.5 payments and then another one middle of the year, then you hit the VAT threshold, and then you're like, oh my God, there's even more tax. And then you become a limited company, and then you're like, now there's corporation tax. And it's like,
Yeah.
I remember Aiden saying to me, he's like, there's a thing on the calendar for tax to be paid, but we've just paid tax. I was like, oh no, that's a different tax. He's like, how many taxes do we pay? I was like,
Many, many
3,
taxes.
sometimes 4. It's wild. So yeah, like there's nothing worse than like, especially January, chasing your tail, like, and I had that for so many years, self-employed. And again, that
Yeah.
was the lesson that I didn't learn until I really learned it. So that's a really good one. And I think
Yeah.
the holy grail of the adulting, doing your future self a solid, because it's a really far future self, setting up a
Go
pension.
on.
I know.
I mean, old lady Haley and old lady Maddie are going to be so happy.
We're going to
It's
be on our
just,
Virgin Voyages cruise. Finally.
it just, I feel like a pension it's the ultimate doing your future
Isn't it?
self a solid, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
it seems so far off when you're
It's the
young,
ultimate
doesn't it?
delayed gratification, yeah, because it's like
Yeah,
we
I'm going to put that
so
money there.
yeah, like we do a monthly one, and then at the end of, because we have a limited company, so it's tax deductible. So at the end of our tax year, my financial planner is literally like, what can you afford to not see until you're like 65, 70? And that's a really hard question, because I'm like, but
Like,
it's there now and I want it. But also there's like the tax benefit of like, you'll also pay less tax, and this money will multiply and multiply and compound.
yeah.
It wasn't until I started getting a little bit started following a few people. There's a guy called Ramit Sethi who's like a money guy. He's got a Netflix thing. He's got a really good book. And he speaks really simply and talks about like, if you put in X a month at this age, this is what it, roughly give or take will be worth. And I was just like, my mind was blown. And I remember in one of my old programs that my financial planner came in to do a bloody talk about like blowing everyone's minds. She said that, I didn't know this, but you can set up a pension for a baby, like as a parent.
No.
Yeah. So honestly, everyone was like raging at the parents. Not that I think anyone knew, but she said, if you put £100 a month into the baby's pension pot from the age birth to the 18, then stopped paying into it, by the time they retire, there'd be over 1 million.
Sure.
Isn't that I know. And I was thinking, I was like, Dad, why didn't you put 100 quid in?
I didn't
He's
know,
like, I don't
love. I
know.
didn't know.
Didn't have
But
100
I
quid.
think about, I think about pensions a lot. And I think I went self-employed. Oh, I mean, like 25 years ago now. I mean, I'll have to do the maths, but it's about 25 years ago. I went self-employed. And I feel like the government should have said to me, you should set up a pension. Like,
Yeah.
in that time where I was setting myself up online, declaring myself as a self-employed person, I just feel like even a cheeky email that would have said it would be really smart that you set yourself up a pension, because you haven't got one now, remember, because you're not,
Yeah.
you're not being employed. But there was nothing. It took years and years for me to start thinking about that stuff.
Yeah.
And it becomes so much more of an emergency then, because I was so much older. And I just
Yeah.
think, I just thought, what a missed trick from the government, really. Just that little advice. You're going self-employed, heads up, this is going to be a great idea.
Yeah.
Because they're so worried now, the government, about the amount of self-employed people there are that haven't got pensions. There is a
Yeah.
future stressor going on about how we're going to
Yeah.
pay for all the old people. And
So what we're
so
saying is, if the
it is,
government are listening, which I'm sure they are,
yeah, if the government are
send some letters,
listening,
guys.
I've got a top tip for you. I feel like in our industry, it just was never talked about. I think these things are getting more talked about now with people like you talking about money and stuff. But honestly, I was in my 30s when this even came on my radar,
Yeah.
and I'd been
Yeah.
self-employed for 10 years by then.
And I think especially when we have
Crazy.
it's such a physical job, as we are both testament to how damaging that physicality was. And it's like, you don't see a lot of 60 plus, 70 plus hairdressers, nail techs, beauty therapists. And, some people are very smart with their money, or they're very, they're in privileged positions or lucky positions and can invest in, they inherit houses and stuff like that. But yeah, it's just one of those things that I think, again, I didn't know, so I just didn't know. But I wish that I had better information. I've worked since I was 16. I think, Jesus, if I just put 150 quid even a month in,
I know.
because I had to, play major sort of catch up. But yeah, that's the ultimate one. And obviously, I know not everyone's in a position, to have any sort of spare money. But if you do your pots, like you say, if you do your freezer surprise food, get it in a
Yeah,
pension.
it's just about getting a little bit more, less living in the now, having an eye on the future, and just making some slightly dull grown up decisions.
Yeah, and
But they do allow you to be more fun in the
yeah.
long term.
And in a segue, because I think we've got a couple of shameless plugs, but I'm going to chuck another one in.
Oh, go
With
on.
my pricing calculator, what I find so many people do is they look at the numbers like retroactively. So they'll go, oh, what was my tax return, which is like 12 to 18 months ago. And they always look backwards. And I always, the way I teach pricing is to price forwards. Like, what do you want to be doing? What budgets do you want to have? What do you want to have for training, education, holidays? And I urge everyone, who works on that, to put something in for savings, for pension, and put it into your prices. Like, that's what would happen if you were employed.
Yeah.
Your employer would factor
Yeah.
that in. And we can do the same. So, and sometimes it's very, very nominal, like minimal amounts to your clients, but it can really add up, like £1 to every client. It's easy, 100 quid a month, isn't it? And
Compound interest is the
that
most
becomes how
bonkers
much.
thing
Insane.
I've ever tried to get my head around.
Blows my
Compound
mind. Yeah.
interest is mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crackers.
A million
What's your other
quid.
shameless plug then, Maddie?
Thanks for asking, Hayley. What a hell of a segue. So it is January, which means it's challenge season. We're challenging
Oh, it
everyone here at
is.
Coffee Isn't Lunch HQ. I am bringing back Slay the Day, a fan favourite, very confronting but fun, enjoyable, great way to start the year. That is going to start on the 7th of Jan. We'll put links and stuff in the show notes, but I'm totally free to attend. It's a free 4-day challenge. It's mega. I'm very pleased with it. What is
Nice.
your shameless plug, Hayley?
Well, I've got a challenge as well, as we're in challenge
Yay!
season. And so I'm going to
Yeah.
be doing a challenge around burnout. And that's going to start, it's a 3-day challenge. with a
Yeah.
masterclass, and that's starting on the 16th of Jan, and you can sign up now for that.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah,
So you
so
can get in
links in
Slay the
show
Day, you can get in yours.
notes.
Yeah. You'll be
Yes,
challenged.
links in show notes, links in Instagram bios, all of
Yeah,
that.
the usual
Yes.
places.
Come do our
Amazing.
challenges. Yours first, mine the week after. Very good. Very
You'll be
good.
challenged to the edge by the end of January. Amazing. And hyper focus. What are you hyper focusing on at the beginning of Jan?
I know. New Year's hyper focuses. Well, I've just recently discovered something, and I think I might be late to the party, but it's a very, very new hyper focus where I've literally just been Googling how I can use this, but I've just discovered NFC tags. Do you know what these are, Maddie?
No? NFC
I feel like
tags?
when you discover them, you're going to go wild in the house.
Oh, what is it?
So I've just about figured out what they are. And I was like, ooh, these are going to be brilliant. And so I'm now knee deep in blogs of how to use them. And so, and I feel like for ADHD folk and productivity and all this and just remembering stuff, they're going to be amazing. But NFC tags, right, you can buy them for literally a couple of quid for like a bag of 50, and they're like a disc, and you stick them to things and you can program it to do something with an app, right? So just as an example, you can put one on your fridge and have it, when you open your phone on it, it will go to a shopping list on your phone. So the whole family could be adding things to the shopping list. So it's like you open the fridge, there's no milk. You put your phone up against the NFC tag, it opens a communal shopping list for the whole family, and people can just put things on.
That is insane.
I mean, I love it so much. I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do with this, but you can also do it. Like I was thinking about my friend who is really obsessed with has she turned her straightening irons off, and it gives her the absolute horrors. And I've been on holiday with her, and she gets so stressed about, did I turn things off? And she has this trick where she does things like she takes photos of things when we go on holiday. So she can look at the fact that her iron is off and unplugged and go, I definitely did it. It's just this anxiety that comes up. But I was thinking you could do stuff like this with the NFC tags, because I sometimes think, have I taken my vitamins? Have I done them today? I can't remember.
My ADHD meds?
Have I taken my meds? You know, I mean, it becomes clear after a couple of hours if you've taken them or not, doesn't it? But then it's a bit late as well, you know, and all of that. But you could have an NFC tag that you go, I've taken my med. You take your meds, click it, and then later on in the day you can go back and be like, yeah, no, I did. I took my vitamins. I took my meds. So I'm working on.
What's going to be?
Yeah, exactly that. But I'm sort of working on at the minute, figuring out how this could work. But I'm also thinking about how I'm going to put this into helping people that help with ADHD, helping people that are overwhelmed. Like, I feel like these are a lovely little hack, but I'm in the process of really having a think about this. But I'm loving it, Maddie.
I love the tech stuff. I love the life hack stuff. So I need you to keep me posted on this. I can't believe I didn't know what it was. This is amazing.
I'm going to be. I know, honestly, I just thought, am I dead late to the party here? But it's like, do you remember when people were doing a lot of them things you stick on the back of your phone, and if you look at it, it goes, your business card comes up.
Oh, yeah.
Have you seen them? That's one of them.
Right.
You know, you just program it with a link to a website, and if someone clicks on it, they go straight there. It's all of this. Yeah, it's not dead new, but I'm thinking about it in a different way. Yes.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Love it. So mine, it's mortifying. In the boss household, we have become so we end up we absorb a lot of daytime TV because we work from home. I'll sometimes be in here in the office, sometimes, especially when it's cold, my electric fleecy blankets in the living room, and I like to go and sit there. And if I'm not doing calls, I'll just sit and work with Aiden in there. So we absorb a lot of daytime TV, a lot of breakfast TV, a lot of the daytime TV about you're going to get scammed left, right and centre and defrauded. We love a bit of this. But my favourite at the moment is Four in a Bed. And so if anyone is maybe not in the UK or for some reason hasn't seen it, it's B&B, bed and breakfast owners, who they rotate around each other's places and then they score each other and you've got to pay them and you can underpay them and all this. And the reason that I love it is because it is the best ever depiction of British people. And I think that if I had to ever go, what is British culture to an alien or to a person from another country, I would say watch a week of this, because everyone's like, hello Sue, and then they're like, this dust, they're like scouring under toilet seats, and then they're really nice to them at breakfast, and then they underscore them, and then they have to confront each other, but in a way that they hate confrontation. And it's the most palpable tension. Oh, it's so good. It's so passive aggressive. Like,
I was going to go,
this
sounds like passive aggressive hell stroke heaven.
So good. It's, oh my God. So I'm just, as a almost an observation of humans, I'm like, this is amazing.
Oh, that's
so
funny.
We're in very deep. There's a one really near to us, and it's got a plaque that says they were on Four in a Bed, and it's the one
I hope they got a good
week
score.
of episode. I can't find it. It's not on. That week's disappeared, so now I'm even more like intense to find it out. And some of them just make themselves look so awful. I think no one's going to stay in your B&B because you're just an awful person.
You've put yourself out of business, kiddo, here.
You might have the shiniest one, but yeah.
I feel like I'm going to watch a bit of this, Maddie. I'm aware of it.
Yeah, mindless telly.
It's basically Come Dine With Me,
but
with B&Bs, isn't it?
Yeah.
Instead of going to each people's house for dinner, you stay in the B&B. Yeah.
Oh my God, so good. So if anyone needs something to just not think about, but also weirdly get deeply into, that's the hyper focus of the moment. A nice one.
Excellent. Everybody enjoy Four in a Bed. And
there's about 20 series.
Tags.
Yeah, defo. Right, my love, it has been a pleasure as always.
First one of the year, done.
And I will
see you next week.
See you in a bit.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this episode, please like and subscribe, and don't forget to leave your thoughts in the comments.
Please support those who support us, and check out Timely, who we recommend as our favourite booking system for you. New customers can get 50% off their first 3 months with the code COFFEE50.